Hello, hello, and welcome to Spindle TV. My name is Laney Shaughnessy, and I'm your host tonight. Welcome, everybody. I jump started about 5 minutes early. I saw a lot of people coming in on the chat. Just wanted to say hello to everyone. Hello, Sylvia Klosterman and Darwin Bradley, Ronnie, Mike, William Wallace, Dave Krause. How are y'all doing this evening? Hope y'all are doing well. Mike Smith, downtown Central Florida. Mike, where in Central Florida are you located? I know you're not too far from me. You're probably, I think, just a hop, skip, and a jump away. But Darwin's in Central Florida as well. I think Darwin's down in the um, uh, Orlando area or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but got some Central Florida folks here tonight. How are y'all doing? Hey, Tim Manival, Chuck Deskins, how you doing? Ronnie Probert, good to see you as always. Paul Handwork, how you doing, buddy? Well, we're going to get started here in a few minutes, and tonight we're going to be talking lithophanes. Hey, Wayne Henniker for popping in. Thank you, bud. We're going to be talking lithophanes, and lithophanes is not anything new. They've been around for a very long time, but lithophanes on a CNC, that's relatively new. It's been around for a few years, quite a few years, but lithophanes, there was ways of making them back in the day. And heck, even nowadays, people can even 3D print lithophanes and stuff. So carving them on a CNC is kind of one of the more common practices, I want to say. I'd like to say, I'm not 100% sure, but people with 3D printers have found ways of 3D printing lithophanes and all. So that's pretty cool. Welcome, Camaro, Steven. How you doing, bud? Um, and for those of you that are new to the term lithophanes and everything, basically it is the practice of carving an image of some sort into a translucent material. A lot of the more common materials are going to be um, Corian countertop, Candle Stone, heck, even PVC. Believe it or not, we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight as well too. But lithophanes, basically, if you were to, we'll use Solid Mass Lion here, his tiger here as an example. No, we won't because it's a small photo. Let's get a big one up here so we can get it on the screen. All right. Let's see here. Where's a good large example of a lithophane? Let me go back up here. We'll just use Napoleon. Let's see how they do for us as far as a large photo. There we go. Not the greatest detail in the photo, but it'll do for this explanation. So basically, in that translucent material, that Corian, that Candle Stone, PVC, I've had people white acrylic, things like that. You have this relief type carving, three-dimensional relief type carving, and the more material that you remove allows when it's backlit, because this is designed for an LED or a backlight, candle, whatever the case may be, night light, however you want to, backlight it. But it's meant to have a backlight behind it. So the more material that you remove, that makes the material thinner, so more light can go through. So it's represents kind of all the white areas in the or the lighter areas, should I say, in the image. When it's carved in that translucent material, very lifeless image and everything. There is, very little detail to be had. But boy, oh boy, when it's backlit, I mean, that just really makes it pop. And in the image to your left here that my mouse is kind of moving over, this is the actual carving, little keychain of Martin Luther King Jr. here. When it's backlit, it kind of creates that black and white photo, very photorealistic. A lot of people will make little night lights out of them. They'll curve the plastic because the corian and the Kendall Stone and there's another material. I didn't get the name of that other material. There's another material out there for it, PVC, but it's you know it's man-made material. It's a very dense plastic, if you will, and it can be heated and shaped. And so these have a nice little curve shape to them. These little night lights, and those are cute. In different rooms and stuff. Great little selling little products and things like that. There's people that make little lithophane boxes and all kinds of stuff. But when that carving, when you look at it, it's like, yeah, okay, that's cool. But man, when you put the light behind it and that image pops out at you, it's like, oh yeah, man, that's cool. So that's what we're going to be working with tonight. We're going to be talking lithophanes this evening, and we're going to talk about the different ways that we can make them, and we're going to talk about thicknesses of material and cutting depths and the types of bits, because I want to make this disclaimer right here, right now, that I am not an expert or the expert on lithophanes. There's a lot of great resources online for making lithophanes and all. And those resources have different opinions on cutting depths and different things regarding. Oops, let me see if I can learn how to type here. Different methods in carving and all. Now, as far as a resource goes, um, for getting materials like Kendall Stone and things like that, where I buy my Kendall Stone is candlestonegifts.com, and it's a solid surface type of acrylic material. And the package that I bought were these 5-piece 10 by 12 Candlestone solid surface materials. And it's about $65. I mean, they range, you can get them in different size shapes or different thicknesses and all. But they range around, $7, anywhere from 240 to 7, depending on the shades. And Candlestone actually comes in like a bone, white, and an ivory, I want to say. Um, and different materials. Let me see here. I'm going to click on this selection here of these 3 materials and see what the color options are. We've got vanilla, white, and bone. Now, I personally prefer the white over those, but the different tones, the bone, the vanilla, or the white, they give you different shades, depending on your lighting source as well, too. Your incandescent lighting or your candle lighting is going to be a little bit more, have that yellowish kind of tone, warmth to it. And your LED lights are going to be more kind of the black and white photo brilliance. But Candlestone Gifts is where I kind of buy my materials. But you can find all kinds of resources on eBay or Etsy or Amazon and things. But this is kind of my go-to, and they sell on Amazon as well. Now, when I was talking about the different methods and everything, when it comes to making lithophanes, Kendall Stone actually has a nice little instructional, or kind of not an instructional. It's more of a take on his or her method, some tips and things. And they basically have an idea of like, the image or the model is between 1.1 and 0.15. That's kind of the magic number. And even Router Bob over at Shop Sabre, he has a video on making a lithophane, and he says the same thing. That magic number you want to hit is 0.1 to 0.105 or 0.15. And what he uses is a 0.105 in his instructional as far as the thickness of that model or that image and things. The transition between the detail that you get in the photo from when it's lit and not lit, that's really going to be dependent on the type of your settings and the type of carving and the type of material and type of bit. Now, the individual that wrote these tips and stuff in the Candlestone, his go-to is a 30-degree V-bit. Now, most times, most lithophanes are made with a ball nose bit, a very small diameter ball nose bit, 16th inch to 32nd inch ball nose bit is kind of more common practice, but a lot of people like uh, CNC nuts. Peter over there, he uses a 30-degree bit, and he's got a different take on his 30-degree bit and what makes a good lithophane cutter, and I'll tell you about that here in just a second. But when it comes to machining, machining at a 45-degree angle, that's kind of my go-to as well. I like that, that look versus that raster back and forth. It's more rastering on a 45-degree angle. And that's kind of, a lot of people will do that. It's kind of common for that. And um, the method that they use here, their tip is they first use a V-carve with a flat depth, and they cut it to 0.88 pocket, like 0.088, should I say, deep, and kind of relieve some of that material. And the material usually starts off at about 1/4 of an inch. And that, when they do that, that kind of leaves them about 0.162 of material. And then their model is 0.13. And that leaves about 30 thousandths, 0.03 or 300ths, however you want to say it, of material below the model. Very, very thin amount of material below that model, which allows a lot of light to come through in those light areas to really make that pop. And these methods that this gentleman wrote up here, that's kind of his go-to. That's his method. And as far as testing and stuff, these are the things that have really worked for him, and things like that. And I usually use a 32nd or a 16th, depending on the detail that I'm trying to get, ball nose bit. And Peter uses a 60-degree V bit, but the V bit has got a very fragile tip. That 30-degree V bit, and it's got a very fragile tip, and it has a tendency to break. The little tip has a tendency to break off. Well, he actually likes his 30-degree V bit with that broken tip. He kind of sands it, smooths it out a little bit, but he actually carves with that V bit that has that broken tip, and he likes the results that that gives him. Now, I'm not going to sacrifice a 30-degree bit and break the tip off or sand it down like he recommends. He recommends, he's like, you can even sand the tip off and things like that. That's more of an engraving bit that has that flat depth on it, which I've never tried. But this guy doesn't say anything about a broken tip, but he does say that the tip can break easily, and everything. And so where he uh, says that, let's see here, where does he say about the tip? Yeah, right here. He says, I cut my lithophanes at 45 degrees with both speeds up to the cutting, but also helps to ensure I don't break the tip of my bit on the first row. That's why he does it 45 degrees, so he doesn't break the tip of that 30-degree V bit, because it's very, very fine tip. But as he, continues on, a small tapered ball nose would be his second choice, and that's kind of my first choice. So we're going to explore the different looks and the different options, the different bits that we're going to talk about. Router Bob's method of the 0.105. This gentleman's method is 0.13. We're going to kind of look at the different things. Now, this guy leaves a bit of material, or girl, whoever wrote this article, I'm not 100% sure, but their material, the thin bit of material under the model that's left of that lithophane, is 0.03. Router Bob's preference is 0.04. So there's that kind of usually when I create a lithophane, it's whatever size the material is. If the model fits in the material, or that image fits in the material, I let it carve to whatever it's going to be. I've never really given thought to how much material is left over. And also, we're going to explore, we're going to actually be precise this time by putting that model position in the material at a certain thing. Now, when it comes to making the lithophane, there are two options really only for making lithophane: Photo VCarve and Aspire. Now, a lot of people say, well, in version 10, in Desktop Pro and Aspire, we now have this Photo VCarve method here, and that is for photo V carving. That is not for making lithophanes. It's for photo V carving and stuff. And that is where a V-bit will slice a series of lines in a material. The deeper the lines, the darker areas, the shallower lines, the lighter areas, and then you stain or you color. You got to have some kind of contrast. So there is some kind of stain or color or paint, and then it brings out that picture. And a really excellent example of that was actually posted today on the Digital Woodcarver Owners Group. We have some owners that do some really creative carvings and things. And Pete Woolley, which I don't know if Pete's in the group tonight. He might be. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Ed and Crisscross Crafts. How you guys doing? I didn't see y'all pop in there. But in the Digital Woodcarver Owners Group, and I'm going to just share this post because it was a phenomenal turnout. It's one of the best photo V carves that I've ever seen, and I've made a few, and I never get really good results. When I do get good results, is when I'm carving in like cherry, and I paint the face of that cherry white, and then that contrasting color really helps bring it out and all. But Pete here, if Facebook will work with me here and load up for me, Facebook, so we can move on at a nice streaming pace today, guys and girls. Come on, Facebook. We'll give that a second to load while we talk, and all. So we'll let that talk and all. But so I want you to understand that I am not the expert. So what I say here and what I show, because I'm going to show carving, creating it in Photo VCarve, and I'm going to show creating it in Aspire, and I'm going to show the differences. And let's explore those two, and then we're going to also talk about this Photo VCarve that's in V10 and what it can do for desktop and pro and stuff. And I am just, I am an educator, if you will, in this software, but I do not know all, the perfect, like this is the perfect mix. We're going to do some experimentation. We're going to talk about some different things and all. But we'll go from there. And we're going to talk about how to prep your photos and things like that. A good idea to prep your photos. A lot of people, will just import the photo in and then, go from there. But real quick, I want to pop back to that post I was talking about. Now, this is a piece of, I want to say Corian, but it might be just a piece of ABS plastic, but a Photo VCarve, and it's hard to see in the image, but there's a series of lines that are carved here to create the image. And then what Pete does is afterwards, he will you can, like in a different lighting, you can kind of see the photo coming out a little bit more, with the the lighting and everything. But what he does is he takes it a step further and he spray paints the image or the material, and in this case he's using, I want to say it's kind of almost a black, or I don't know, the around looks almost look like a gold, but it's kind of a black in there. And then I'm assuming that he sands everything off, because the final photo, which I believe this is the final photo in his post, you can still see some remnants around the edge of that black paint. But my goodness, the way that it brought out that image in that Photo VCarve is just phenomenal. And so I'm assuming that he's sanded, where it leaves all the color in the grooves and all, because I'm looking at the outside of the material here, and I can still see some remnants of that overspray and all. But man, that is one of the best Photo VCarves that I've seen in a long time, as far as detail and quality and everything. And that is a Photo VCarve. That's using a V-bit to carve a series of lines and slices and things, and then you have to give it some kind of contrast. And in this case, it was kind of a light spray paint, or or a dark spray paint, should I say, but a light coat of spray paint and then sanding to get that result. That is not a lithophane. A lithophane is the practice of carving a three-dimensional model inside of um, your material, a relief, if you will. That's the proper term, a relief, and then backlighting it so that that light can come through that material and create that contrasting. And we've lost for a second. Sorry about that. That's my little down of lithophane. So now we're going to kind of get into software, and we're going to explore that a bit. So with that being said, let's go over and let's look at our images, some of the images that I'm going to be working with tonight, and we're going to talk about how to kind of prep them. All right. So, and hey, Dave Gatton, Mark Lindsay, how you doing? Dave Clemens, how y'all doing? Everybody, all you guys. And Dave, if you talk to your gang, I have not seen that model that they emailed me. I'll do that tonight. But anyway, all right. So we're going to switch over to, and I'm in Photoshop here, and I use Photoshop to prepare my images to make them a black and white. So black and white is going to be kind of the best way to start off with Lithophane. You can start it off with color, not a problem. You can bring a color photo in and all that, but I kind of like to do a little bit of pre-prep. And so what I've got is some photos. This is to a museum, and these are things that I saw. This photo, because the books and all, we don't want nice. And of course, our subject this evening will be this happy couple here. I actually have to make a lithophane for these folks for their anniversary. And so this is going to be the photo that we're working with. And it's a nice quality image, very detail and things. And also, all right. With that being said, what we do is whatever photo software you have. Now, Vetrix also has built into their software over here. They have their picture, right? And their picture can turn into a grayscale. Kind of built that in. Now, this is more so for the Photo VCarve and the litho and stuff and all of that. But it's also kind of for that new laser module they got coming out here in the near future, which is going to be awesome and all. And so we can use this tool to with our images. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my screen resolution really quick, because I didn't do that for you guys and girls earlier. And are we breaking up? Is the sound buffering? Hello. Let's see if we can get back to reality. All right, the sound is breaking up. So, StreamYard, what are you doing to me tonight? We're going to take a pause here for a second, and it may be my computer. So whoever just, I think that was Darwin that just tried to call me. Thanks, Darwin, but I can't answer the phone. But it did bring me over to look at the chat and see. Usually when my phone starts going off during a class, that means something's going wrong. So let me change my resolution here, and let me see if I can fix our microphone issues. First thing is we're going to close that web browser there. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you all hear me now? Okay. So hopefully you can, we're getting a little bit better. I think when I opened up that web browser, it was wanting to capture my mic, my microphone, and it was trying to steal it from StreamYard. So we're going to do our best to see if that will work. I got a little, well, my hair fell out. We are in DEF CON 5, boys and girls, with haircuts. I'm having a bad hair day. We need salons to open back up. All right. Okay. So hopefully the audio wasn't so bad that I have to repeat everything that I just said, but hopefully y'all could still hear it some. But what we're going to do is we are going to that's what we're going to do. We're going to get into our photo editing software, and we're going to clean it up, clean up our photos a little bit. So let's get back over there, and let's hopefully I'll keep an eye on the chat. And I had too much stuff as open, so it was just way too much stuff was open for the software and everything. So thanks, Dave, for pointing that out to me. Okay. So in our image here, and I'm going to zoom back out here a little bit so we can see our photo here. I'm going to start off with this mountain scene with the bears and all. And I kind of, these images here, I'm looking at these landscape images as something that I want to wrap in a 4th axis. We're going to talk about that in a moment as well, doing a lithophane on a wrap job, so we can put like a candle or a light in the middle of a tube and it illuminate all the way around like a little lamp. And then we're going to talk about our flat lithophanes. Now, before I get into the photo, let me pop back over here real quick. And let's talk about my material. So my material that I'm using is Kendall Stone. It's going to be the white Kendall Stone that we talked about a moment ago. The thickness is 0.243 inches thick. So it's not a true 1/4 inch thick, it's 0.243. And this is going to be a 10 by 12 piece of Kendall Stone. So that's what I'm going to be using. I've got 5 samples to play with, but I'm also going to be using, believe it or not, unconventionally and all, I'm going to be using Schedule 40 thick wall white PVC pipe for that round, I think I'm going to do a 4-inch diameter, 3 or 4-inch diameter, one of the two, for that lithophane that's going to be I'm going to be carving a landscape of some sort in this round tube, so that I could put a light in the middle of it to create a lamp. That's going to be cool. I've never done that, so it's going to be experimental for me as far as the actual carving and everything. But I've seen some beautiful results, and so I'm going to give that a try. But in my Kendall Stone here, I've had excellent results. I've had excellent results in Corian as well, and other materials. But my preference, me personally, I prefer the Kendall Stone. And so, all right, now that all that being said, knowing what we're working with, let's get back to our photo. Now, in this image, you'll see some glare right here because this was kind of behind glass, right? And taking a photo behind glass, you kind of get some glare and all. There's not a whole lot that I can do with that. I could probably Photoshop it out, but this is not a Photoshop tutorial. This is a Vetrix tutorial. But I probably could come in there and really zoom in to those areas, and I could probably blend that fur in a little bit and really clean that up. I am not by any means a Photoshop expert or anything, but the I have people for that. I have a Photoshop expert that I could probably go around and kind of use my little healing brush and things to kind of blend that in a little bit better to get rid of that glare. but I don't want to use the Photoshop too much because it does take up a lot of resources and it's going to make my audio act up again. But just with a few like clicks, that glare that was pronounced here is more blended in, and we have this glare down here. I don't know how well the uh, what am I trying to say here? The spotlight healing brush tool will work in these areas because it kind of picks up the other areas around it. But it might be something where a clone brush or something or what have you. But I'm not going to I'm not going to sweat that. I'm not going to get that anal about it right here and now. So let's zoom back out and let's talk about the main thing that you know, I how I kind of prep my photos. So the first thing is converting the image to a black and white. And so I'm just going to use the image tool, adjustments, and I'm going to come over here to black and white in Photoshop. Again, you can use all different types of uh, photo editing software. You can even use the photo editor in Vetrix to do that. Now, the software is going to interpret the colors and shades and things as a black and white the best as it can. But in here, I may want to adjust some of the tones and things to, get um, a bit more contrast between the foreground and the background. But if I go too far, you'll start to see there's that more glass reflection here in this photo, this little square right here. And, so I want to, do my best to kind of work around that the best that I can. And so I'm going to, try to make some light adjustments in there. Um, Once I do that, then I can come in and auto contrast to let it kind of put that mask over and kind of change the contrast a bit. I can um, come in and work with it manually as far as my vibrance and saturation and things. We can make all kinds of adjustments, whatever it might be. Um, and again, I'm not a Photoshop expert, so it's not a lesson that, but we want to get that black and white photo. Now let's go over to our subjects here that we're going to use, and let's zoom out so we're not all up into their business here, and let's kind of back off. And these, Myrna and her husband, these are uh, some of the best people that I know, great friends of the family, and they asked if I could do it for them, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to come over here to image adjustments and black and white, um, and I'm going to leave everything as is here in this, and then I'm going to come over and start to change the uh, tone a little bit and everything, and kind of bring out more of the lights, the details in their face, and more so than the background. Again, each photo editor is different, and going to kind of just pop out those whites a little bit on that exposure. I'm kind of almost overexpose it, not too much, and oh, not that much, and we'll be good there. Okay, so with that, I can go ahead and save that image, and then I'm ready to bring it into my software. Now let's start. Let's get this uh, closed. Let me save our little black and white bears here. We'll use them for our subject line tonight. Let's go ahead and save as, and we'll go into our documents, spindle TV, lithophanes, and I'll just call this the Bears. Okay. And we'll maximum threshold on that. We'll go ahead and save that. My audio might break up while it's saving, and then we'll get out of this software and it'll really make it good. So, all right, good enough. So we'll go ahead and close that. I'm not going to save those because I've already saved that photo. The Rams, that would be a cool one too. We can probably come back and visit that later. And the Eagles are not a good picture because it's blurry. All right, let's get into some software. Let's go ahead and close out of uh, Photoshop. And let's start with Photo VCarve, the software Photo VCarve. And I'm hoping to goodness, I know I have all of the software on here. So hoping VCarve is on this Photo VCarve. Now, okay. Photo VCarve, I don't have it up to date because I never use it. All right, stand by 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to sit here and talk to one another, and I'm just going to talk out loud and ramble while I am updating my Photo VCarve. So stand by 1 second. So hopefully y'all will enjoy this. Now, these are going to take some long times on carving, so I'm trying to figure out how to work out the in the shop part of this class, or this session, part 2. I'm gonna have to definitely do some pre-carving, because this is gonna take multiple hours, and we're gonna talk about that in just a second. Let me get logged into my account so I can download my software. All right, Photo VCarve. All right, let's change this here, copy that. Let me open up Photo VCarve once again. How are y'all doing tonight? Hopefully you're doing well. I should have had all this prepared, but I did not. I did not. All right, let's get back to it. Let's close that and that. And let's get back to where we're at. All right. Now, let's talk about Photo VCarve, and let's talk about what is in the version 10s of the Desktop Pro and Aspire. Okay. So in the Vetrix VCarve Desktop Pro and Aspire, we have a version of Photo VCarve now built into version 10. And oops, that's not what I want. I want 10. And the version that's built in is the VCarve version. There's like in Photo VCarve, the standalone program, there's 2 things that we can do with Photo VCarve. We can create that VCarve like I showed you a moment ago with the slices and everything, but we can also create that relief type image in Photo VCarve for a lithophane. So it's a 2-trick pony. You know, it does those 2 things really well. Inside our Vetrix VCarve Desktop Pro and Aspire, we have a new tool that you will see in your tool database, which is this Photo VCarve right here. And this is the VCarve portion of this, the V carving. So you notice if you open up your tools here, it's only going to show you your V bits. Okay. You're not going to see your ball nose or anything. It's only V bits. It's Photo V carving, ladies and gentlemen. It's not lithophane making. So Photo V carving, like that, again, like that sample I showed you of that gentleman, P. Woolley, that did a wonderful job. And so what they've done is they've taken part of what Photo VCarve does, VCarve photos, and they've put it into version 10 of the Vetrix Desktop Pro and Aspire. Now, before that occurred, the only way that you could V-carve a photo or create a lithophane was either in Photo VCarve or Aspire. And even when you were in Aspire, you could only do the lithophane portion, but not the Photo VCarve portion. So what they've done is they've taken their standalone program Photo VCarve and taken that VCarve portion out because it's kind of popular. Everybody wanted it and all this and all that. And they added it to Desktop Pro and Aspire. But we still don't have the lithophane portion inside of the software. That is still, in order to do that, requires Photo VCarve or Aspire to do the lithophane, that relief and all. We cannot do it in our Desktop Pro or Aspire Photo VCarve. We have to use the import model or make a bitmap from an image or a model from a bitmap image and stuff to create that relief. But let's so hopefully let's see if we can go that. And yeah, in Big Fish, time-lapse video is probably what I'm going to do. And if you guys didn't see the little time-lapse or little fast-forward video I did of the 4th axis last week, I did post that on Spindle Training Videos in the Spindle Training Videos subscribers group. And I did believe I also posted it in the Digital Woodcarver Owners group, a little video clip, 8-minute clip of that kind of rough to partially finish, video that I wanted to be able to show live last week, but it wasn't rendered in time. So the first step in Photo VCarve is we're going to load the image. So we've got to find our resource. So I'm going to go to my libraries, not my libraries, this PC. I'm going to go to my downloads, and I'm going to grab my image here, my little black and white image that I've created. And I've got that imported, and my image is 1902 pixels by 2257. And so now, I'm ready to kind of set up my material. Now, one of the things it does have here is make color transparent. And what that is like a selector. I could actually select a certain color and make it transparent where it kind of erases it, but everything is grayscale now. It's not a colored photo to where I have a white background where I could just clear it all out. So that option is not going to apply to me. So I'm going to go right into my material size. Now my actual material size is going to be 10 by 12. It's the image size, it kind of gave that recommendation, but my image size is going to be 10 by 12. Now it's because of the aspect ratio, it's automatically changing my numbers here. So I'm going to go with kind of almost a little 8 by 10. I'll leave myself a little bit of a white rim or white frame around the edge. So I'll just let the aspect ratio, it's gonna kind of lock in that aspect ratio. I can't stretch it or anything like that. It's gonna not let me do that in Photo VCarve. My origin is going to be the bottom left corner, and I will be zeroing off the machine bed. Now, in the case of a lithophane, because we have so much so little, not much, because we have so little material left over after that carve is done, so little material, it's important, there's a word for that, it's important, we'll just say important, that we are accurate, right? And the most accuracy I'm going to get on being able to leave that 30 thousandths of an inch material is by working off the wasteboard, off the machine bed setting, because that's 0, and then it's going to mill to there. So if I tell it to leave 30 thousandths of an inch or 0.04, 40 thousandths of an inch or what have you, it's going to be more accurate than if I'm working from the top. Because I calipered my material says 0.243, 5, and on and on. But I can round that up. But now if I'm working from the top, well, I'm working off of that number, and I could be off. My caliper could be off, whatever, blah blah blah. And now I'm taking chances that I might carve through that thin little layer of material, or it might crack or break or something. So working off the machine bed is really the go-to when it comes to lithophanes. So 0 for your wasteboard, zeroing off on the wasteboard. Okay. All right. So just had to, I wanted you to see the intensity in my face when I said how important that is. Okay. All right. So let's get back to it. All right. So I'm going to be working off the machine bed, and my material thickness is 0.243. I'm going to try to be as precise as I can. That's what I'm going to go with. Now, it was 0.2435. I could round it up to 0.244, but we're just going to go 0.243. I'm just going to go there. I'm not going to round up or anything like that. And I am working in inches. If you're working in millimeters, you would set that appropriately. And then, of course, your measurements would vary based on millimeters. So we're going to click apply, and we're going to lock that in. All right. All right. Now it's time to set the cutting parameters. Okay. In the cutting parameters, how are we doing? Are we still breaking up? You guys still with me? Everybody with me? Because I just heard my phone go off, so it made me look over. Oh, never mind. That was TikTok telling me someone uploaded a video. All right, let me turn the volume off that phone. I don't want to turn it down because you guys, that's how y'all alert me that something's screwing up. All right, so now in our tool database, as far as selecting the tool, it's a very minimalistic tool database. We can add new tools and things in there. So I am going to add in a new tool, and I only have 3 choices: VBit, engraving bit, or a ball nose. Okay. Now that engraving bit is a V bit with a flat tip, right? That's like taking the 30 degree and breaking the tip off, like Peter does, or sanding it down or whatever. You can just get a 30 degree engraving bit if you wanted to go that route. But for me, I'm going to be using a V bit, and it's just a straight 30 degree V bit, 1/4 inch. The pass depth on that is point two something off the top of my head. I can't remember what it is, but I'm just going to go 0.2 for the pass depth. And I really actually want to do it in one pass. Um, so my max carving depth and all that's going to play a role in here and stuff. And how thick my model is and how thick I want to carve it and all that. So I'm going to, on my maximum carving depth of my little model here, it's going to be that 0.105 or point 0.1, between 0.1 and between 0.1 and 0.15. So Router Bob over at Shop Sabre, he likes 0.105. That's his magic number for him for all his lithophanes. The other guy was 0.13. I have no real preference, so I'm just gonna, Router Bob looks like a smart character, so I'm gonna go with the 0.105. I actually did a sample in the software as far as looks and all, and it looked good. So that is going to be my pass depth. Okay, I want to cut one pass in there on that. The spindle speed on this bit, the 30 degree V bit, I'm going to run this around, I believe I'm going to run it around 16 to 18,000 RPMs. And now feed rates and plunge rates, this is going to vary based on your machines. Big commercial units, Shop Saver Pros and things like that and stuff, you can crank this out. You can run really fast, 100, 125, 150, whatever you want. Smaller mid-size units like my 2440 and stuff, you want to be somewhat conservative. And I have a rule, and it's kind of the rule that I teach all, I kind of instill onto all of our customers and all, is any V-bit, no matter what material you're carving in, your feed rate's going to be 35 inches a minute, your plunge rate's going to be 25 inches a minute. Now, here's the kicker. A lot of times, and somebody posted this in a video on the 3D model class, that because of the rapid Z movement and everything, it's going to take the lowest axis, in this case would be the Z axis, that plunge, and it's going to use that as the feed rate and everything. I have not experienced that in any of my carvings, but with that being said, I'm I'm almost inclined to make my feed and my plunge rate the same, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna stick to what I'm used to. Um, and because again, I've ran tests and everything. I've ran timing tests and I've ran things and all, and I've never seen it. What they're saying, or what some of the posts, or what the gentleman who commented on the video said, is that if let's say I'm running 60 inches a minute on my X and Y, but I have 20 inches a minute on my Z, because of that up and down, it's going to run no more than 20 inches a minute. It's going to take that low number, and that's what it's going to run at, and that's why the carvings are so long and things like that. While I'm running, I am watching my speeds and everything, and never has it just stuck at 20 inches a minute. It's always been up to my feed rate. So there is some relation there, but I don't think it overtakes it like they were explaining. Again, I'm not the expert on that, so I'm going to stick with my normal settings here on my tool. So I'm going to add that in there, but I'm also my tapered ball nose. I'm going to add that in, and I'm actually going to be carving with a 32nd inch tapered ball nose. Now, the thing that kicks my tail with Photo VCarve is it says ball nose. There is no tapered ball nose. And the cut is shallow enough that 6.2 degree angle of my tapered ball nose is not gonna be really effective, because our model's like, 0.105 inches thick. It's not very big, less than an eighth of an inch. So that angle isn't going to be effective. So I'm okay with using the ball nose option on that and stuff. But I have to remember that my tip diameter is going to be my diameter, right? Not it shows up here that D for the shank, but that's because it's a straight ball nose. The diameter of the tip is the same as the shank. But in this case, I'm using a tapered ball nose. I'm not using a straight ball nose. I'm using a 32nd inch tapered ball nose. So my diameter here is going to be 0.03125. And I'm just gonna, know with every cringing part of me wants to, it's a tapered ball nose. There's a 6.2 degree angle there and all, but knowing that it's only going to be 0.105 inches thick, that taper really is not going to affect things too much. So I'm okay with that. But geez, guys, why don't you have a tapered ball nose into this mix? Anyhow, my pass depth is going to be I want to do this in one pass, so that's what my pass depth is going to be. And on this tapered ball nose, I'm actually going to be running this a lot slower. It's a 3-flute, 32nd inch tapered ball nose, so I'm going to be spinning that thing about 14,000 RPMs, and I'm going to be running around 50 inches a minute. And again, I'm going to leave my plunge as I do. Now, a lot of recommendations, like Pete, I think Peter over at CNC Nuts said he uses a slow plunge because he doesn't want to plunge down real fast to risk breaking the tip and things like that. Yeah, anyway, so I'm just going to leave it at the 25. And so I'm going to throw that into my little tool database as well. All right. So for me, that's going to be my bit. You can use your 30-degree V bit or with a broken tip, or however you want to do. But you can even try your 60-degree V bit. V bits do pretty good, but a very narrow 22, 30-degree. Those are going to kind of be the better ones. Now, here's the kicker. With the line spacing in Photo VCarve, we can only go from 100 and 3% up to 200%, right? 100 to 200, not 103, 100 to 200%. And that's my line spacing, that line spacing and everything. And I'm doing a lithophane. I want a really tight line spacing. And I actually only want to step over 8%. So you can't use the slide bar for that. You actually physically have to type it in. Now, Peter over at CNC Nuts, he uses a 10% step over. I think Router Bob even used like an 8 to 10% step over in his little tutorial. There's a lot of great tutorials online. I'm just one of many, right? And so what that does is that's going to give me a lot of lines in this 10 by 12 project, 4,291 lines that bit is going to carve. And it's going to be carving at a 45-degree angle. I like that 45-degree angle. So Now, when you're using Photo VCarve, if I type in a 45-degree angle here, I think it starts at the top up here and works its way down in this diagonal direction. If I use a 315-degree angle, then it's going to start in this bottom right corner and work its way up here. And I kind of, because if something was not looking right or and all, I'd much rather waste this material down here where there's not a lot of detail in the photo, rather than I get into this and realize that I need to make a change or something, and then I've lost all that material up here close to where my subjects are. All right. So we're going to do a line angle of 315 degrees, which should bring that carving up along from this bottom right corner up to the left. All right. All right. Um, and yeah, Hayden, KR, he says, I wish they had a, diamond bit. You could even use diamond drag bits with a very fine tip and stuff for lithophanes and all. And Bob asked the question, do you keep your Planet CNC at 100? What Bob is talking about is the feed rate, the speedometer, the feed rate. We can control the feed rate and all. Yes, I keep it at 100% when I'm running it because I set all the feeds and speeds in here. But I can adjust it, Bob. I can adjust it accordingly, in 10% increments up or down. And I can even, if I'm running it, let's say I'm running at 55 and I'm like, yeah, it's actually going pretty good. I can ramp it up. I can ramp it up to twice its speed. And stuff. So I can bring it up at 200 or 10% increments until I start to lose quality and things in the cut. And then I'm going to back it down maybe 10% from there. And that could be my running feed rate, right? I can adjust it on the fly, but I keep it at 100%. And Michael says, hi, Crystal points out to me. Hey, Michael, how you doing, buddy? Crystal's son, Michael, he's our youngest viewer. He's watching, I think, he's watching. He might be watching or he could be in bed by now. Who knows? But hey, Michael, how you doing, man? Good to see you. He's like, oh my God, mommy, the computer's talking to us. So I'm going to go 315%. Now, here's where we need to create our contrast. Right now, as this stands, without inverting the light and dark areas, if I don't invert the light and dark areas, it's carving kind of backwards for what I want to do. It's carving like if I was carving this in wood, where the all the light areas are high and all the dark areas are low. Right? They're carved down. Well, that's opposite for me. That'll give me a negative image when I put a light behind it. I need all the light areas to carve deep and all the dark areas to carve shallow. I need less material removed from there so that less light can get through to create that darkness. And if I don't invert that light and dark, I'm going to get that reverse. When I put the light behind it, I'll have a negative image. So I want to make sure that I invert the light and dark areas in Photo VCarve and everything. All right. All right. Now, my rapid gap above Z, when it raises up to move from one place to another, I have it set as a default of 0.2. That could be a lower number. You don't need it raising up too high when it's moving from one place to another, because actually in this, it's not really going to raise up and move from one place to another. It's going to pretty much stay at the full depth of the cut through the entire path and everything. So, for me, a rapid clearance gap for now, 0.2 is fine. 1/8 of an inch is fine, anything like that. So now I've got my settings and my parameters and everything. The only thing I do not have is my maximum cut depth here. I don't have that changed. It still says 0.03 here, and that's not my maximum cut depth. My maximum cut depth is 0.105. All right, so I almost went right past that box without changing it. And that would have been a bad day. All right, now here's the kicker. In my Photo VCarve, I'm going to, my maximum cut depth is going to be 0.105. Okay. But I have 0.24 material, so that's going to leave quite a bit of material behind the model and everything when it creates this image and everything. And I want to leave about, we'll go with Router Bob's suggestion, 0.04, 0.03 to 0.04 thickness of material behind this model, material left that's not, where I'm not cutting actually through the material. So I have two choices here. I could accommodate and account in, 0.243 minus 0.03 or 0.04, whatever your number is, gives you your maximum cut depth. Okay. And I could do that. But what I actually want to do is on the inside of my frame here, I'm going to actually use Vetrix to do a pocket, like a V-carve with a pocket. So I get a nice chamfered inside edge. And then, it'll mill out all that waste material. And then my model cut here, I'm going to cut down into that, into that pocket area and everything. So for me, my maximum cut depth is going to be 0.105 because that new pocket that I create after that V carve and pocket, I'm going to zero out on that pocket, and that's going to be my zero, and I'm going to carve 0.105 down from that. Okay. That's how I'm going to do it. You can do it any way you want. And so I'm going to click calculate to calculate this, and it's going to calculate this. And it'll run through pretty slowly. So while that's running through pretty slowly because of my bit choice, and I'm only stepping over 0.003 of an inch, that's a human hair. So I'm gonna, and I'm doing this because I want a very high detailed image because this is someone's anniversary gift. So I'm foregoing knowing that it's going to take longer and all, especially with the bit choice that I'm using and everything. Instead of a 16th inch bit, which would give me great detail, right? A 16th inch ball nose bit would give me good detail, not a problem with it. But I'm using a 32nd, so I've doubled my time there. And I'm not using a V bit. A V bit, I probably get it done in about 5 hours, what have you. We'll look at that when we get into the software, the other software and stuff. But I'm using a 32nd inch tapered ball nose, stepping over 0.003 of an inch of that tip, that small little tip there, which is 8% of that tip. I'm stepping over 0.003, which is 8% of that tip. And so there's a lot of step overs, and because of that step over is a lot of lines, 5,212 lines. Now, the setup from Photo VCarve to Aspire, because that's the jump. It's one of the two for Lithophanes, not Photo VCarve, but for Lithophanes, it's one of the two. And if anybody out there has says I'm wrong or has done a Lithophane carving with the Photo VCarve option in the Vetrix and everything, show me. Okay. Um, and then I'll say I'm wrong. But right now, from everything that I've tested and tried and all, there's only the two options. All right, so let's answer some questions here. Um, Hi, Mom. All right, my mother popped in to see a picture of her friends that I'm carving. All right, so Mark has a great question here. Can you incorporate rest machining when machining the lithophane? Yes, but Mark, for those individuals that don't know, rest machining is an Aspire function that we can do in Aspire, and it is the process. It can't be done in Photo VCarve, but it's a process of using a larger bit, almost like a clearance, if you will, to create the detail, and then a smaller diameter bit doing the rest of the design in that detail. And Mark, the balance of when it comes to the rest machining, the balance of time is if I use that small bit to begin with, and I use that runtime and all, and because this is a highly detailed photo. It's not like a 3D model where there's a lot of curves and contours and all. There's a lot of detail in there and stuff. The curtains in the background, the tree, and all this stuff. But if I did one tool path, doing a single pass with my small diameter bit versus if I use a larger diameter bit to kind of get a majority of it done and then come back and touch up the small areas where that bigger bit can, those two tool paths together, which one times out, saving me time. But we can absolutely do a rest machining process if it's going to save us time. In a large model where we can use a larger bit to, get a majority of that model and then come back and touch up the fine details with a smaller bit and do the rest machining. Yeah, wait, that's really applicable over that. But in a case where we're doing something that has just nothing but fine detail, the rest machining process might not apply. So, but it's something we can absolutely look at. And for anyone that has Aspire, you can, definitely look at that. Now Bob jumps in and says, it took 9 hours on the one you worked on with me. So Bob is a customer. We worked on Lithophane together, and it was a 9-hour carve for him and all. Now, to give you an idea of like how long this is going to be, if we popped back over to the software real quick, we're only in this calculation, we're only 14% in all this time that I've been talking and all. So what we're going to do is while that's calculating, I'm going to come into the Aspire software, and hopefully you guys, I'll keep an eye on the chat while I have now um, Photo VCarve is calculating a toolpath, so it's a lot more resources. And now I'm going to be working Aspire, which is heavy on the resources. Also, if my audio or things break up, let me know, and we'll step back and punt from there. It's let's see here. And Mark is an instructor, guys. If you don't watch Mark Lindsay CNC and his beginner tutorials and his Vetrix tutorials and stuff, go over and check them out. They're great tutorials and everything. And Mark, thanks for popping in tonight and joining us. I appreciate that. When you change the starting point, 3.15 or 315, did it not change the number of lines? Yes. When I changed the starting point, when I changed the angle of the starting point and everything, it did. It changed the lines from 3,900 to 5,200 or something like that. Why it does that, I don't know, but there's a reason for it. But yes, it did, and that was a good eye that you caught that. If using a ready-made model, can I use VCarve Pro version 10 without Aspire or other software? Absolutely, yes. Third-party models, like if you're importing a model, a ready-made model, .v3m, which is a Vetrix model, STL, OBJ, .s, PRJ, and a few other, I think there's like 6 others or 5 other different model formats. You can import them into Desktop Pro or Aspire, and you can import one third-party model file, that STL, OBJ, those models that are not Vetrix. With .v3m, multiple .v3m models can go into the Desktop or Pro, but only one third-party model file per project can be imported in. Now, Aspire, multiple third-party projects can be imported in all as well. But yes, you can, Mike. You can use a ready-made. And Mark throws out another tip. He would tend to use the rest machining only on photos with a fairly clear background, and that's exactly right, Mark. Because that fairly clear background there's not a whole lot of detail, so it's almost like it's clearing away that material, and so a larger bit can clean out that area much better than the smaller bit. So the smaller bit can then focus on the more, the subjects, the more detailed things. So that's an absolutely exactly uh, that's exactly right. All right, let's get over into our Aspire software and the let's see here. Bear with me a second. Bear with me just 1 second. Somebody sent me a photo of their lithophane. I'll have to bring it up about the details and all. Was made. Okay. All right. So I will share. I will get that. I will transfer that over. Whoever sent me. Oh my gosh. With the 509 number. Oh, that was the wedding photo. So yeah, I will transfer those photos over and I'll show them. That was. I think wasn't that Bob? Wasn't that? Wasn't that us? Isn't that the wedding photo, Bob? All right, let's get back over into our Aspire software here. And in our Aspire software now, I've already, in the modeling tab, we have a tool here called create a component from a selected bitmap. Okay. And I've already imported that same photo in here, and I've created the kind of the grayscale, and I've got the layer turned off right now. And this is a negative image that it looks like inside of when you're carving that relief. It looks all goofy and everything in the black and white. But when we're carving, and we're going to bring in the picture of the bears. We're going to kind of show the process from start to the beginning, but it looks odd. It looks weird. In the carving, you've got the eyes bulging up, and you've got the skin and things, down. The neck and the collar is carved down, but the black jacket and all is up because that is the darker areas in the photo. So the more material, the less light that can go through. The less material, the more light that can go through to create that negative image and all. So what we're going to do is in this new layer here. We're going to bring in the picture of the bears that I did, the bears. And we're going to use this tool here. And we're going to go to our pictures, phone. No, wait, I'm sorry. I saved it in documents, spindle TV, lithophanes. And we're going to grab our bears here and let that import in. And when it comes in, it creates the model right upon, or that relief right upon import. It does it upon import. So all I have to do is size it down to the material that I'm using. And I want to kind of use this for the round tube. I think that would be cool, wrapping it around the PVC and everything. But let me get this size down and we'll talk about that. I just don't want to open up too many while that Photo VCarve is calculating. I don't want to open up too many uh, programs and have the audio mess up again. But now, in this instance, if I was going to carve this, I would absolutely carve it in a landscape mode. So I'm going to hit the number 9 key on my keyboard to rotate this twice to match my material setup. And then I will size it up. I'm going to hold down my shift key and kind of size it up. And then I'll get it centered. Once that model regenerates, I'll get it centered onto the material using my alignment tool. Okay. Now in my, let's close that alignment tool. In my modeling tab, I'm going to turn off the other image so that I can go into the 3D view here, and you can see, holy camoly, what is all that mess, right? There's a whole lot of fuzz happening there and everything. And right now, if we zoom in real close and all the dark areas, which are the bears, they that's all high, right? It's all high. It's almost like laying it out like if I was carving it in wood. Let's close that tool because I don't want people thinking that we're using that tool. So the first thing that we have to do is we got to go into the properties of the selected component, which is the bears. And oh, my nose is. We've got to reverse the combine mode, if you will. So we want to reverse that from an add to a subtract, so that all of those dark areas are carved down, and all the light areas are carved up. Now, if we go into the 2D view on this, that'll make the image look like like a negative image, and everything. If I did not have it reversed, that image would be like a grayscale. Let me unreverse it there, and it would look almost like what the lithophane is going to look like when there's a light behind it, right? It's going to somewhat kind of look like that, when there's a light behind it. But we need it to, in our 2D view, it's going to look like a negative image because we're carving this in. We're going to be backlighting it. So all those dark areas, we're going to have some high spots, um, and then all these other lighter areas are going to get carved down, thinner material. So because the sky's lighter, so we're going to have more light coming in the sky, but it looks black here because it's when we're in that negative form, that's the deeper part that's getting cut and everything. So now here is where I need to set my shape height. Okay, the shape height, my model shape height, and this is that point between 0.1 and between 0.15. Those are good numbers. Those are good numbers to kind of work your goal numbers to work with. And so for this, we're going to go with that 0.105 because I like old router Bob over there. All right, we got freezing a bit happening, and losing sound, breaking up. So let's give it a second. Let me close some of these programs that I have open. Let's see what else I have open that I can close. That's really all I can do. All right, let me know. Let me know, testing 1, 2, 3, how we're doing as far as sound goes. Like I said, the computer right now is, especially the Photo VCarve, we're only at 29%. This thing might not get done. The Photo VCarve might not get done for me to save the file by the time class is over tonight. No, it's gonna be uh, most likely, Mark. I know it sounds like an internet connection issue, but I am uploading right now at 760, downloading at 110, super fast internet speeds. So it's not going to be that. I mean, just freaking gigablast. Thank you, Cox Cable, for hooking me up. But sick internet speed. So it's not going to be that. It's going to be the demand on the programs that's going to take away from it. Crisscross graphs. Now this is exactly right. This is the thinking, right? I hope you like the results. Otherwise, you have to tweak it and do it again, right? And that's kind of where we're at. Gosh, I hope I picked the right numbers. I hope, everything is going to look okay, because if not, then I've got to recalculate that thing again, and and wait again. And that it's a waiting game. It is. It is. So yeah, Chris, that's exactly right. Um, the it's Aspire, and this Photo VCarve is only 29% done. I mean, it's really trying to crank out all these lines, and it's kind of demanding on the system right now. And I do not have a gamer system, and that's what I'm getting ready to add a third monitor, and I'm getting ready to upgrade the computer hopefully one day so I can stream flawlessly without ever blinking, because I got the internet, but I don't have the graphics cards and all that fun stuff, for doing this kind of thing that I'm doing, this podcasting and all. All right, so now when we size this more appropriately, and it kind of brings down all those peaks and things, we're starting to look a little bit more normal. And there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of forest and trees and fir, so there's a lot of up and down movement in these areas here and all. And so, but oops, stand by. Control Z to undo that little move. There we go. All right, let's get this into full view here so I can grab it down here instead of grabbing it on the model so it's not moving. But again, looks very lifeless, looks like nothing right now in this kind of simulation. If I turn off the bears, it looks very non-exciting at this point. But it's good. So now we got to get over to the tool pathing side of the software. And now we've got, this is the important part, the material setup. Okay. This is where we have to set our model. And by the way, our model is this light tan area, this block of wood here. And by the way, 243, let me change that to the size. This block of wood is my 0.243 material. And the model, that 0.105 model thickness, that is here. And now we have to get it positioned in our material where we want it. And, remember what I said is in the position, I want to leave in either 0.03 or 0.04, not 304, 0.03 or 0.04 thickness of material underneath the model. And, so that leaves all this material that's got to get milled away. And this is where I'm going to do the VCarve and my pocket and everything and all. So I'm going to be V-carving and pocketing away this 0.098 inches of material. Okay. And everything. So I've got my model position in my material correctly. I'm working off the machine bed, bottom left corner for XY0, and I can get out of the material setup now. So let it read this model, and I'll stop talking while it does. Otherwise, it'll be delayed. No, I do not want to recalculate all those tool paths. My goodness gracious. You're going to hear me talking here in a second, but it has nothing to do with the class. Give me 2 seconds. In a live class, we'll call as I'm done. Live class, we'll call you as I'm done. Don't you hate when you read yourself? Burl Tishner from Digital. We're going to talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow night, we're going to be showing 5100 live at 7. Be sure to join us for that. All right. So now got our model in our material set. But that leaves that 098 of material of my model that I need to clear it out and everything. So what I'm going to do is in my drawing tools or my modeling tool, sorry, I'm going to close my property tools here. What I'm going to do is on my model, I'm going to create a vector bound around. Okay. Create a vector around that. Wonder. And use that vector VCarve at a nice inside corner, chamfered edge, reset, if you will. And cut flat depth of 0.09, magic number for setup and everything. I'm just going to use a CV bit and an end mill to and I'm going to use 1/4 inch. So let's do that. And grab the chin mill and throw that in there, get rid of the 1/8 inch. And I want to do a raster back and forth, back and forth. Now there's no grain, right? So I could technically do an offset round and around. There's no grain per se that I want to carve with the grain on this material. So I could do an offset and everything. In this case, I'm just going to back and forth. Now my raster angle is going to be 90 degrees. I will go along the length so I can, my router has time to kind of speed up to somewhat of a decent speed in those long runs, you know, not really a long run, 10-inch run. By the time it gets a few, within a few inches, it'll be able to get up to speed, but it has to slow down for, getting going again. And on that, we're going to go ahead and calculate that toolpath. And what that's going to do is, it's going to, I got a piece of white lithophane material here in my preview. It's going to pocket out that waste material, if you will. Okay. Audio is bad. Audio is bad. Okay. Let's stop there. All right. Let's see here. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. From this point, once the toolpath is calculated in the Photo VCarve, you would save your file to run. Okay. File save as, and you save, choose your post processor and save it. Knowing that, that's the last step, after the calculation is saving the file. That's the last step, right? So I'm going to go ahead and stop this calculation because I'm not going to be using the Photo VCarve version of this to carve the lithophane. And hopefully that will take some of the resources out. And you can see the process of how it's carving along. So that's as far as it got in the calculation, but looking really good, right? All right, so we're going to go ahead and close out a Photo VCarve. And I'm not going to save the changes, and I'm going to focus on the Aspire. And hopefully that will not mess up my audio. I don't need that calculating in the background because you're going to see the same thing here in just a few minutes. All right. So once again, we're going to come in here and I'm going to preview. Yeah, it's on my end, Michael Bell. All right. So what's going to happen with this Photo V, or then shoot, what's going to happen with this VCarve with flat depth is it's going to mill down to that 0.098 and give me that flat surface and all, and then it's going to chamfer the outside edges of that perimeter and give me a nice chamfered looking recess to the lithophane. It kind of gives it a nice little decorative touch. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to stop this for a second, and I'm going to turn down my preview simulation quality. And let's preview that toolpath a little bit faster. There we go. Okie dokie, tokie dokie. All right. And so my V-bit will come in and give me a nice little chamfered edge. So that'll give me just a kind of a nice little recess. My model will be carved into the rest of this material, but it gives me just that nice kind of chamfered recess and almost kind of outlines the frame, if you will, and all. All right. Now from there, I'm going to then on my model here, again, checking my model position in my material, making sure it's nothing's moved or changed or anything like that. I'm going to now create my 3D finish cut. There's no need for a rough cut in this matter. it's, you know, there's no need for it. So I'm going to be using the model as the boundary, and I'm going to be rastering, and I'm going to be rastering at a 45-degree angle. Now this is a little bit different. By typing a 45-degree angle here, it's going to carve from that corner up, where so that I type 315 degrees in the other software where it to make it go into that corner. Just by typing 45 degrees, it'll go to 45-degree angle. Should be from the bottom left or bottom right up to that corner. So if we were to calculate this, again, I'm using a 32nd inch tapered ball nose bit. My 32nd inch tapered ball nose bit, stepping over 8% and going from there, and cutting at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to go ahead and calculate this, and fingers crossed on how long it'll take to calculate this tool path. We'll see. It should be a little bit faster, but while that is calculating, this gives us a perfect opportune time. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Opportune time to answer questions. So, other than sound issues and my mouth heart, my mouth heart. Let me see if I missed any questions. All right. Any questions about anything up to this point that we've talked about? Is any of this information helping you, or kind of like, oh, I knew that already and he's not showing me anything new, or, oh, okay, he's got some, decent little advice and tips and all? Because again, I'm not the authority. I just want to make sure that I'm not wasting y'all's time and giving you something to work with if you want to try Lithophane in your shop, because they're fun. Now, for you guys and girls have big shop machines and stuff, and you're like, your machines are cabinet makers and all that stuff, and it's production and all, and you need to justify like these long carvings on these small projects, especially Crystal and Steven Camaro. Go check out Router Bob's Lithophane video where he breaks down the by hour of your big commercial machine carving these small lithophanes. It comes out to about $1.05 an hour or something like that, based on the machine you're operating, and all that. He kind of breaks it down, so it's kind of, I thought that was kind of. He's like, for those big companies, they're like, I can't transition into doing little things like this. It's a cabinet maker, and he was talking about the Shop Sabre Pro. But he said, well, let's say you fit 50,000 into your machine, and 40 hours a week or whatever. It's like 40,000 hours, and he breaks it down. It's like $1.05 or something an hour. But check it out, Router Bob's version of how to cut a lithophane. In his Shop Saver video, it's a pretty good little breakdown when he tries to explain it. But these are long carvings, so that's that alluding what I'm alluding to is cost, machining costs and stuff like that. These are going to be things, these are kind of craft type projects and all, and for the amount of runtime, this is going to be a 5-hour run or so, or it might be, this one's going to be longer. If I do it with a V bit, it'd be about 5 hours. But I think I'm going to get finer detail with this. It will never really pay for itself. This is it will take forever for it to pay for itself, in a sense. And how do you charge, based on what it is, how long it takes for it to carve and stuff. And what Router Bob was saying was, it averages out to about $1.05 an hour, to run this carving. So let's say it was a 10-hour run, you're about $15 in. So if you sold it for 30 or 40, you're making something, that kind of deal. But I don't know what his rationale. He's dealing with $40,000 and $50,000 machines, and I'm not. So but it was a good little tidbit of information that he threw into the video. Now, I want to talk a little bit, and I'm almost scared to do this. I'm gonna open up a second instance of Aspire. Dun, 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 dun. Why would you do that? Um, and I want to talk about if we were doing this as a rotary project, a lithophane on a rotary. Now, what I'm wanting to do is I want to say about a 6 to 7 inch long piece. So I'll break it in the middle and go 7.5. And the diameter, I'm going to use Schedule 40, thick wall, Schedule 40 PVC. I haven't found any round Kendall Stone yet. It's all flat sheets now. I could throw it in the oven. It puts off some off gases, and also don't use your good, your good oven. The Mr. or Mrs. whoever does the cooking will kill you. But I could soften that up and wrap it around a form and create. I could this material is just a dense plastic. I could heat it up to its softening point, and I could shape it around a form and all. But I'm not going to get a true unless my form is good, unless I've got that malleable just right and all. I don't think I'm going to get as good a result as if I just use a piece of PVC. And it's just the making those cute little lamps and stuff like that. So I'm gonna get a piece of PVC 6 inches, 6.5 inches long. The diameter, now it's a 3-inch PVC pipe. So I'm going to assume that those diameters, when they say 3 inches, that's inside diameter, right? ID, inside diameter. So giving the thickness of the wall, I'm gonna call it 3 and 1/8. I don't know. I'll have to calibrate out and see what it is. But for this tutorial, let's call it 3 and 1/8 inch diameter. Okay. I'm going to be zeroing out from the cylinder axis, bottom left corner, wrapping around my X axis values, and click OK. And in the case of this, I'm actually going to be whatever image, and I like doing landscapes and stuff like that, nice mountain scenes or, deer or whatever. But I'm looking around like I have something to show, but let's, imagine a piece of PVC, a nice little wooden base or something, a little LED light in there, a little candle light or a candle even, or like little those little voltage candles or something. But just a nice little on top of your little couch, coffee table, or centerpiece in your dining room table, whatever, your mantle. These nice little cool little carvings, when they're illuminated, they create these nice little scenes. You want to get really fancy, put a rotary on it so it actually turns, that type of thing. And I've got a little microwave motor that I collect from old microwaves. I have a gentleman who does scrap metal, and every time he scraps a microwave, he brings me the little motor because it's like a little rotisserie motor that just turns slowly. And I'm going to be making it out of that, so that way it slowly turns. That way I can see the whole scenery all the way around, not just the front part and everything. So it's a nice little turning thing. And all. And on that bear scene, that would be the scene that I would actually put on here, or the rams. I had some rams. I like the mountain. I like those type of landscape sceneries and everything. Now, if I were to just straight up, not go into Photoshop and grayscale or black and white it or anything like that. If I were to straight up import or create a component from a photo, okay, and in this case, I am going to go into my pictures, my phone pictures, and I am going to scroll down. There's my old girlfriend, Sam. How's she doing? I hope she's doing well. We're going to go down to here's the eagle, here's the rams. Well, I like the rams. We'll use the rams. So rams. And when I import it in, it's going to automatically, like I said, it creates that component right upon import and all. So, I'm going to size it down to material, and I'm gonna let the photo kind of tell me, how big my material and all should be, and stuff. And I am gonna leave a little bit of material that can recess into a base, a wooden base or something. I'll, cut that. So based on this photo here, and based on the diameter, if I was using a 4-inch um, piece of PVC, and of course I'm an idiot. I got to rotate it because that is my diameter on the rotation. Let's turn that around. One more time. Oh my God, you guys, we were just sitting there talking. All right, screen share. Y'all sitting there watching me this whole time. All right, so let's undo that. Bam. That whole time, y'all were looking at my ugly mug, going, "Somebody, please get Laney's attention. Can you please switch screens?" All right. So in here, we've got a job set up. It's going to be a rotary job, 6.5 inches in length by 3 1/8 inches in diameter, using the cylinder axis as the Z0, which is the center of the cylinder, and bottom left corner. Okay, so that's as far as we got. So most of it was just me talking, guys and girls. We weren't really doing anything. Now, let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of my model photo here. I deleted it already. Good. In there, we have create component from selected or imported bitmap. And we're going to import that RAM image. I've got a lot of random photos on my phone, but that's them. And when it imports, it's going to create that component, and it's going to create that component and all. So we're going to size this down appropriately, and we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. So I'm going to hit the number 9 on my keyboard just to rotate it. That little beep y'all hear every once in a while the model's got to regenerate before I can rotate it the second time. And I'm going to size this down appropriately for my material and everything. Let's get centered up here. And let's get this size down. Let's get it centered up on the material for the moment. For the momentito. All right. Now, what I was saying is I'm going to let the picture determine the size or the length of my spindle, my diameter. I gotta kind of stretch it a bit because this is the height, right? So 3 1/8 inches is the diameter. That's unwrapped. That's the Y here. That's my Y. So that 6.5 inches is the side to side here, my X. And so I'm going to do my best to try to fill as much of that as I can on that 6.5, or I'm going to cut it down, my piece of material down to the proper size. I don't want this, white band at the top, so I'm going to try my best to position it. Now, as far as the wrap around, I can't change the diameter of that piece of PVC pipe. It is what it is. And so I have a choice. I could center it on the material, and that blank strip back there that's going to be nothingness. It's just, when it rotates around, or if I was sitting it on a shelf and it wasn't turning, that would be in the back, right? I wouldn't see that seam, if you will. But this I'm going to be having rotate. I'm going to have it rotating and stuff. And so I'm actually going to stretch this a little bit, which you don't really want to do, especially when you have animals and all. But I'm going to kind of stretch it out, and hopefully it's not going to be that bad, And now I'm going to center that again. And part of this, the bottom part of this is going to be recessed into a little base and everything. So I got to keep in mind for that too. Do I want any part of my picture that's carving, to be in that base, or do I need to make the length a little bit longer? And in this case, I need to make the length a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump this over to that edge, and I need a little bit more length to sit down in that base because I'm probably only about maybe an eighth or a quarter there. So what I'm going to do is instead of 6.5 inches in length, I'm going to go ahead and just go 7. Okay. All right. Because that area there is going to be recessed down into a whatever it gets put into. Now, just this was a color photo. I didn't change it to black and white or anything like that. So the software did its best to interpret. Let me unwrap this. There's no zero plane in there right now. It did its best to interpret what is it's going to be and all. But if I come over here to the open picture editor, well, you know, uh, the adjustments that I make aren't going to do anything for the lithophane because it's not a picture. It's a model now. It was imported as a model. And so if I would have imported this first as a bitmap image and then did adjustments and then converted it to a model, then I would have been able to do some adjustments here, possibly, right? But I didn't. I did not import it as a bitmap image. So therefore, there's no editing to be done to it. I imported it as a component. Create a component from an imported or selected bitmap. And that selected is a key word. So that means I could import it as a bitmap image, do a little adjustments with that, photo editing software within there, and then I could come over here and turn it into a component, right? So what I have to determine is, did the software do good for me? Did it do good right by me, and what it needed to do, or does there need to be some contrast or changes? So this is my component as it is, as it was brought in, right? Now we're going to import the bitmap image. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's still calculating over there on the other side. And I'm going to import that image as a bitmap this time. Okay. And in the as a bitmap, I can now come over to my photo editor. Harvey says, place a handle on it. Hey, Chris, so sorry missed you. You're already gone, but thanks for stopping by, Chris. Chris. But I can open the photo editor now because it's a bitmap image, and I can work with adjusting, contrast or brightness and things, and I can even grayscale it right from here, and I can adjust, um, you know, whatever it is. And so in this case, I'm going to, um, I want my darks to be darks and my lights to be lights. So let me see where I'm starting at here, my base here. I'm going to bring the contrast down. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to bring my brightness a little bit, and then I'm going to bring my contrast up. Not that much. And see, this is a hazy photo. It's not the best photo to be working with. And this is not really a comprehensive photo editor. It's doing the best that it can. Um, and the invert basically allows me to see, like, all my dark areas and all my light areas and all, and all that wonderful stuff. But um, let's see what I can do here. Okay. So between the cloudy sky, I got a little bit of light clouds here. My rams are nice and dark. My rocks and all. I'm kind of gonna go with that. And I can click apply there to lock that in. And then from there, I can come into my modeling tools. And from the selected bitmap, I can create a component from the selected bitmap and let it, create that component from there. So if we look at it in the 3D view, we can look at here again. I got to change the reverse. I got to reverse the direction, but we can look at the changed image versus what the software created. Now I haven't sized this down yet. And we can kind of determine which one is going to be the better of the two. Let's get both of them to the proper size. So I'm going to go 105. I'm going to use that magic number as my model thickness. Okay. I'm going to change it from add to subtract, get all those highs up and all those lights down. There we go. And then I'm going to go and turn that one off. I'll do the other one. And on this other one here, bear with me a second. This guy right here, we're going to go into change him. I'm also going to make him 105 and change that, bringing those lights down and the larger areas up and all. So we'll reverse that. Okay. And if I click off of here, I can look and see of the two, what is, I've got my cloud cover. These are those white hot spots that were in the clouds, and stuff. I can look at the two and see which method's going to be best for me. What's going to be of the two options, which one, both right now, looking at them, um, other than some smoothness and stuff, I don't see a whole lot of difference. It's hard because one's vertical, one's horizontal. But, lots of detail in this one. Let's kind of focus on the ram's face here. So this ram here, the ram's faces, right? That's the imported model, right? Straight import model. And then this is the edited photo. So let's get the ram's faces. These were the two we were looking at. A little bit, probably a little bit better detail in that one that I edited and cleaned up. Right? So, with that being said, let's go with that one. Now, I can apply some smoothing. To this to get rid of some of those dimples and everything, those little specks and everything. I want to preserve the transparency. And I'm going to turn the smooth. I don't want a lot of smoothing it because that's going to take away my detail, but I am going to turn it up just a slight amount to smooth those areas out. So this is none. This is some. I don't want to go too far, right? We don't want to do that. I want that fur and that wool and everything. So just a small amount of smoothing and not a whole lot, but some. And that's it. All right. So now on this image here, I'm going to go ahead and rotate it 90 degrees. So click once, let it regenerate. Click a second time, let it regenerate. I'm going to get it to fit my piece of material. Ooh, too big. Let's get it into now these white pieces over here, or those blank pieces and everything. I brought this photo in, right? It wasn't trimmed or anything. So um I've got to contend with those. All right, I'm going to slide this image up to the corner because that's all considered part of the model. And then I'm going to stretch this out just like I did the other one. Okay, and I'm going to get a little bit of a stretch. Not much where I'm kind of beyond the material a little bit for the seam. And now that I'm there, I'm going to go into my alignment tool and align it up and down on the material, get it centered there. All right. So I'm going to bump it over with my left arrow key, not that far, hold down the control key and bump it back, micro movements. There we go. And now I got to get rid of this meat, right? When it created a component, it created that, component way out here and stuff. And I got to get rid of that. So this is where Aspire, gives me the opportunity to do that. Is I'm going to go into how's my audio? Everything, you guys aren't complaining, so it must be doing okay. I'm going to create my rectangle. Get that centered up and down on my material. And everything outside of that rectangle, I want to get rid of. So I'm going to hold down my shift key and select the model. And I'm going to come into the Aspire tools, modeling tools, and I want to clear the area of the selected component outside of the selected vector. Okay. That's going to clear that up. All right. All righty then. All right. Now, my actual bitmap image, I no longer need that. I can either come into my layers here and turn that layer off or whatever you want to do. The rectangle here, I don't need that anymore. And now that I've cleared that, I'm going to go back and center it up and down on my material. Let's select it first. I'm going to get it centered, let it regenerate, and good to go. All right. Now from here, it's a matter of, once again, creating that positioning in the material thickness and all that. So what I got to gauge is my model thickness currently right now is 0.1287. What do I need it to be? 0.105. So I'm going to come into that model's properties and change the shape height to 105. Little magic number there. It's not a bad one. And close that. And on my shape height of 105, now I've got to determine how thick the wall of this PVC is so that I know where to position the model within the material. It's not going to be on the outside edge. It's going to be in a slight amount. And I don't know what that amount is because I can't use the 0.4 method because it's hollow. There's nothing there. There's no wood. So I can't put 0.404, not 4.04, and bring the model, down in there. I just can't do that because the pipe is hollow. So I need to determine what my thickness is, determine how thick my model is, and then that's going to be the gap, keep minus the 0.04, and then that's going to be the gap above my model, that I need to adjust. And I don't know what that is. So for right now, I'm going to leave it at 0. Okay. Uh, it just is what it is. Let's go 10,000 just for shits and giggles. And then I will, once I have that magic number and everything, knowing that it's a hollow tube and I got to measure the thickness with a pair of calipers or something, I can then create my toolpath. Now, we did the toolpath that's still calculating. It's a long one, guys and girls, so you got to be ready for that. Um, we did the ball nose bit with that one. Well, with this one, we're going to do the V bit. Okay, the V bit. So, tool is going to be the 30-degree V bit. All right. So we're going to come in here and I'm going to go to my digital woodcarver library of tools. I do not have a 30-degree V bit in here, so we're going to add one. The diameter is going to be 0.25. The angle is going to be 30 degrees. Um, we'll just copy those settings for a moment, and then we're going to change this. The step over, I still want a very tight step over, 8 to 10%. That's kind of my, it is what it is. There's no rhyme or reason. I just like a tight step over for the most detail possible. Clearance pass step over doesn't need to be as much, so that's going to be 15%. The pass depth of that bit, I'm just going to set it because I know I'm doing a lithophane. I'm going to set it for that 0.105. I want to do it in one pass. I'm going to run that bit around 16,000 RPMs at a feed rate of 35 and a plunge rate of 25, just like in Photo VCarve, what I had set it. And I'm going to click apply, select that, and that's going to be the tool. I'm going to use the model as the boundary, and I'm going to raster. Again, I'm still going to raster in that 45-degree angle. Even on the tube, remember, this is going to be round. It's not flat like it's going to be round, but I still want to carve in kind of that 45-degree angle. I like the way it looks. It's a nice clean look and everything. So I'm still going to stick with that, whether it's round or flat. And I'm going to go ahead and calculate that tool path. And you're going to see how much faster it races across, right? The ball nose is still only 3/4 of the way done, and the V bit is just racing across. It's going to be a much shorter. So Bruce DeGarmo is helping me out here. Bruce says schedule 40 wall thickness is 1/4 of an inch. Thanks, buddy. That's good, man. That thick wall, so 1/4 of an inch. So if I take that, let it finish this calculation. And we'll go into the setup, and then we're already 2 hours, 2 minutes in. You guys are probably getting bored by now, but we're almost at the end. We're literally there. Let's close this, and let's go back to our job setup just for a moment. So if we go with our wall thickness is 1/4 of an inch on schedule 40, right? And again, caliper, but I trust Bruce. So our model thickness is 0.0948. All right. Here's what I want I can't use the gap inside model, right? Inside, I got to be the gap outside of the model, right? So, my 0.25 is my wall thickness, right? I want to leave 40 thousandths of an inch of skin. I still want to leave that thin amount. Even on the PVC, I still want to leave that thin amount, that 40 thousandths of an inch, more light to go through. It's all about that. So that is going to that's going to put the gap on the outside of my model. If I'm doing my math right, 0.25, 0.04, but I got to subtract the model from that. Minus 0.0948 equals. There we go. So I should be able to mill down that 0.1152, then my model 0.0948, and I should be left with 0.04 when it's all said and done. And just because I am a glutton for punishment, I want to make sure that's right. So I'm going to open up my calculator, my trusty dusty calculator here, and it's we'll go with a standard calculator. So 0.25. All right. So here, let's do this. 0.25 is my wall thickness. My gap above my material. Here, let's come on, clear it out. Let's do this. 0.0948 is going to be my model thickness plus my gap above the model. 0.1152 equals, what the hell did I just click on? Let's do that again. Lord have mercy. I can't type with my mouse today. 0.0948 plus 0.1152 equals 0.21. And if I subtract 0.25 from that, I should have my 0.04, right? Okay, so the math and logic is correct. All right, so knowing that and getting that placement correct, would you like to recalculate now? Sure, let's go ahead and recalculate that. Now, this is going to take all that waste off. I'm not doing a V-carve, none of that stuff that we did with the flat project. So it's just going to take that 0.11 material off while it's carving. And I'm going to be rastering at that 45-degree angle. How much faster that goes. I think that's why people use the V-bit, because it goes so fast. All right, it was successfully calculated. If we look at our runtime, about 2 hours and 8 minutes for that particular carving. Let's do a little preview visible toolpath. Let's see if we can get it to carve. It looks crazy right here, right now, right? But when we change the lighting and everything, it won't look that bad. And plus, we're going to change our materials, colors, and all. So while this is calculating, now's the time if you want to ask questions, because as soon as that other one is finished calculating, which it should be done here in just a moment, we can go on. But I want to show you my final result of the picture that I'm doing for Myrna and her husband. But let's take a look at this. Right now, you're like, I don't see any rams at all in that picture. Neither do I, but it's there. Trust, gotta have faith. It doesn't look like much in this aspect of things, and it might not be. So let's change our material setup. Let's go ahead and change that to a white color, and let's do a lithophane, a little bit of darkness, and there is nothing there. And the reason why there's nothing there is because I'm an idiot. Is because why is it not showing my picture? Hold on, let me look at my tool. Oh, I need it to step over tighter than that. 20 thousandths isn't enough. That needs to step over 2%. And I'm going to drop this down to 8. Let me check one last thing here. 0.105. Okay. I might have to do the rounding, taking off that extra meat. I think I do. All right. So let me recalculate this real quick with the new tool settings. Not that one, this one. I'm stepping over 2%. Let me recalculate that real quick. And then I'll create a almost what's like a rounding tool path. Which is basically going to be just a pocket tool path. I'm going to have to do that because all that extra material on there just made it look like a bunch of V lines and everything. There was no it wasn't down to the model. So I've got to take off that 0.11 and some change. So, bummer, dude. All right. So our bears have not fully calculated, but what I'm going to do is, for time's sake, you're like, you waited this long, wait a little longer. I've got toolpaths already calculated that I can show, but I would really like to speed things up. Let's see here. I would double check the wall thickness. My chart says it's 0.216. Yeah, and again, I'll use calipers and all when it comes time down to it. And even Bruce says, I'd put a caliper on it to be exact. So I'm just going with, we're just using random numbers. This is all. Bob had a great question. So Bob Sawinski had a great question. I got to go back up to Bob's question. Bob, right here. There we go. What is the melting point during cutting? I have had the chip stick to the material and I would have to wire brush it off. Okay. So, Bob, I don't know what the melting point is, but you're going to have fuzzies. And what you're going to want to do is, I like to use like a little dental pick or, a little X-Acto knife. You're going to clean up a little bit of the fuzzies, but then you're going to take and scrub and clean your lithophane with soap and water and a stiff bristle brush. Not a wire brush, a like a nylon brush, but very stiff bristle brush. You're actually going to scrub and clean it and everything for best results. And while those are calculating, if we come back over and pop back over to this screen here. Let me get Bob's question off there. If we come back down here, photo's big. Okay. Cutting can leave very small bits of materials in the groove, especially with V-bits, right? And you're going to have, I don't know what the melting point is, but you want to be running this at a speed to where it's not melting. You want little chips flying off. What that is and what that feed rate is for your machine, you'll have to determine. For me, I'm running 55 inches a minute for my ball nose bit, and I don't have too much of a problem with that. But you're always going to have little fuzzies. So, a little dental scraping tool is great. Even this guy uses one, and those little hook type tools or a little X-Acto knife. You're going to kind of scrape some of those bigger fuzzies off. But then, basically, like he's saying, anything obvious, right? All those little big fuzzies and all, you're going to kind of scrape off or pick off, however you want to do it. But then you want to scrub your lithophane with soap and water and a stiff brush. You're brushing it all out. And so any of those little melted little, any little melting or whatever that might, little plastic bits that stuck to it and all, that will kind of break that away. And some people don't, some people do, but like he said, many people don't notice difference, but it surely does. I do the same thing. It does. I think it improves the look, just like he thinks it improves the look. So there's two opinions, not just one. But yeah, scrubbing it with soap and water, and scrubbing all that off with a stiff brush is going to remove a lot of that, those fuzzies and things. But as far as what is the actual melting point, uh, dude, I have no clue. I have no clue. But if you're getting a lot of melting, then you need to change your RPMs on your spindle and speed up your cut. Okay, you need to be moving a little bit slower. Too fast, it's melting through. It's not cutting through. And you're moving too slow. Speed up your feed rate a little bit, so it doesn't melt. It carves. So those were great questions, and thanks for pointing that out, um, Keith. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. All right. So I really wanted to show these bears, but you can see that yellow bar in this whole time has not moved at all. And let's see what we've got on our other screen. What's happening with our Rams? They're kind of holding steady. I got to get a gaming computer if I'm going to be teaching classes like this with all these things going on at one time. All right, let's see here. Dum-da-dum. What I'm going to do is the Bears have a little faith that they turn out good, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop that and I'm going to come over to our project that I have done and show you the results of Mr. and Mrs. Kinlaw or whatever her last name is. I think it's Kinlaw. I don't know. But let's reset this preview and let's preview the visible toolpath. And it's gonna that 45-degree angle. It's gonna carve from the bottom left corner up, and we're gonna let that carve so that I can show you how the lithophane light works in the material colors and all. And we will let the Rams finish up what they're working on. See if they get moved along, and then we're going to end this because we're at 2 hours and 17 minutes in. But it kind of becomes a waiting game, So whether you use a 30-degree V bit, a 16th inch ball nose bit, a 32nd inch ball nose, Corian, Kendall Stone, PVC, white acrylic. You don't want clear acrylic or anything. You want white. Whatever you choose to do, some magic numbers are that 0.03 to 0.04 material left under the model. Somewhere between 0.1 and 0.15 for the model thickness, and I've been using 0.105 for this class. And 45-degree angle cut is a really nice cut, but you can try different angles and things. You can go straight across, up and down, however you want. I like the 45-degree angle. And most of your materials are coming in around 1/4 of an inch thick, or in my case, it was 0.243 when I calipered out. And I would do the same thing when I go pick up the piece of PVC, because I'm going to have, what my goal is to carve the PVC one to be able to show it in the class. I don't know if I have it rotating, but I will be able to put a light on it and show it in the class and all. But I want to carve that tomorrow, and then start carving the flat sheet lithophane, because this one, we'll look at the time in just a second of how long it takes to carve. It's a pretty lengthy one too, with the 5 hours and 62 minutes, but with the ball nose bit, we are coming in, I think it's around 10 to 12 hours on this carving. So we got some. All right. Got some other questions. Lane, do you know what is the cause of slow calculating? Is it the CPU, GPU, or hard drive? It's going to be the graphics GPU. It's can be a little bit of a combination of the CPU, but the GPU, your graphics card. There's no special graphics card required for the Vetrix software, and that's one of the things that they say actually in the minimum computer requirements. But a more processing or graphics processing power would help speed that up tremendously. And I will not know for a fact until I get I've been looking at graphics cards, thinking about updating the graphics card on my existing computer. Then I've been looking at getting just another computer. I'm kind of debating on because I'm not made of money. I don't have a lot of money, so I got to kind of choose my battles or pick my battles. It's easier for me to replace a card than it is for a whole system. But I would love to be able to have like a little bit of almost like a little bit of a gaming graphic card sitting next to, a machine sitting next to this one and calculating side by side and seeing which one's different. Seeing, or putting in a different CPU and see if that changes, or I know the graphics card. So, Tom, I think it's a little bit of the CPU and GPU, but I think it's going to be more so the GPU. I think. I don't know. I'll have to ask Vetrix because they claim no special graphics card is required. So I want to say then it's CPU, but I kind of think it has a little bit to do with the graphics card. All right, traditional. So Jim is throwing out some measurements. Traditional product PVC for a maximum operating temperature of 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Heating distortion begins. Yep. All right, there we go. And melting temperature ranges from 212 to 500 degrees, depending on the manufacturer's additives to the PVC. Man, you guys are just full of knowledge. Schedule 40 PVC's maximum operating temperature is 140 degrees Fahrenheit, around the same temperature that hot water goes in most homes. There you go. That's cool stuff, man. And also, yeah, that's a good. Charles is throwing out too. Memory, is a good thing too. It could be a lack of memory. Yeah, memory as well. So Tom is throwing, Tom and Charles is throwing that out there. And Tippy's like, hey, with me doing podcasts and working with 3 programs at one time and this and that and OBS and StreamYard and it probably would be worthwhile for me to upgrade my computer to make streaming a little bit better. But David Pensa says cutting out raised letters using the pocket toolpath areas that are uneven on the z-axis. Can you help with the solution? So yeah, really quick, I can. Um, when you are, let me create a new layer here. When you're cutting out raised letters and you're doing a pocket toolpath, that's what's got me thrown off, David, because typically you would not do a pocket toolpath with raised letters because then you're kind of limited to the font and the size of the bit you use. I'll give you an example. Let's say that I had the word hello. Okay. And let's do a little bit of a let's kind of do a little bit of a fancy kind of a not that oh yeah, fancy. I changed the H. Let's do a little bit of a script, if you will. We'll just shoot. We'll just use Billy's script here. All right, let me turn off this model real quick. Bears, go away. And let's move this over here. And let's actually close this tool. And we'll just borrow this rectangle just for a quick second for this. All right. So imagine that I'm pocketing this out. First thing I need to do is weld my text to, get rid of the overlaps. All right. Now, if I'm pocketing this out, if I use a pocket toolpath, my end mill cannot fit into these areas. And wherever it can't fit, it's not going to carve proper. So if I came in here and pocketed this out, let's say an eighth of an inch deep, we'll do an eighth of an inch deep both ways. And I'm going to use a small end mill. Most people don't always have a 16th of an inch, so I'm going to just say eighth of an inch end mill, right? Let's grab my eighth of an inch end mill and select that, and we'll calculate that toolpath. And in my toolpath, I'm not going to reset the preview for this. Sorry, dude. But you notice that the L's inside my L's, they're gone. My eighth inch bit could not fit in there. The E couldn't fit in there. And the O barely, cut out. So 90% of the time when you're doing raised letters, you're not using a pocketed toolpath. You're using a V-carve path with a flat, which is a combination carve cut and a pocket. So if I do a V-carve to that inch deep with a 60 V bit and my eighth inch end mill, then wherever that end mill cannot fit, wherever the end mill cannot fit, the V bit will take over and pocket and flatten those areas out so that you'll get your details in between those lines and everything. So first off, the pocket path is not an option when you're doing letters and all. It could be a decent option if they're really big letters and there's no, small enough bit that can fit in somewhat good detail, but great detail, just letters and all, and then sharp points just in your font to be the V-carve tool by depth. Now, that answers your question, if that's even what your question is, but I see the word pocket and raised letters, I cringe. So, all right, let's look at this in here. And let's go into our preview, our tool, and we're going to lithophane mode. And let's adjust let's put some light behind it and all. And depending on the intensity of your light or what have you, it's going to be, brighter light, you're going to lose detail. A little bit, more subtle light and all, you'll have good detail. But this is a representation of what your carving will look like when it's backlit. So when it's not backlit, very lifeless and dull, doesn't look like anything. When it is backlit, that's when it shines. That's when that image really pops out and all. So this is going to be the lithophane that I'm carving. Now, speaking of times, which we're not speaking of times, but let's speak of times. This carving with my 32nd inch ball nose bit on this 10 by 12 piece of material to do this photo here. I am looking at a 16.5 hour run using the V bit on the same 3D finish cut with a V bit. I am looking at a 5 hour and 56-minute run. So if we look at this, let's go back into that preview. All right, so this is the result with the ball nose bit, our best representation that we can get, in this virtual world here. If I were to reset this preview and preview the toolpath with the 30-degree, I kept saying 60, but is it a 60? What do I have here? Yeah, I actually did a 60-degree V-bit. If we were to reset the preview and preview that visible toolpath, that's 5 and 50 minutes long. let that go through. So I'm a ball nose kind of guy for my lithophanes. I'll try a 30 degree. I ordered one to try the 30 degree V-bit, but I ordered it as an engraving bit so that it had that flat tip, so I don't have to break a tip of my current 30 degree V-bit. I ordered a 30 degree engraving bit. And you can find a lot of bits, guys and girls, on toolstoday.com. It's a great resource for tools. But yeah, so I bought an engraving bit that actually has the little flat depth on it, 30 degree engraving bit. Fruid makes a 30 degree engraving bit with a 1/16 of an inch flat on it. And things like that, and you can give that a try. Some people use diamond bits and everything. I've never used a diamond bit on a lithophane. Kind of curious how that would come out. But who knows? There's a lot of different options. It's kind of one of those things where play with it, see what looks best, and then stick with what works. And Jerry Williams, I don't think Jerry was in class tonight or whatever, but he made a beautiful lithophane, and I wish I had it here. Burl's got it up with him, but he made a beautiful lithophane that when it was backlit, it was phenomenal. I mean, the detail was phenomenal. And I believe he used the ball nose bit for it. Um, but I'll have to ask him if he used a V bit because not only the Kendall Stone people, but Peter over at CNC Nuts, he likes the V-bit method and everything. And you know, now this looks funky at first, but let me get the lighting right. Not that dark. Could probably increase the step over a bit on this. But the detail's not bad. It looks liney here. It looks liney here, like grainy, when you're at a distance, but that's just the computer simulation. It's actually pretty decent. It's not too bad. But the detail in the eyes and everything, uh, pretty decent. There are going to be lines because it's a V-bit cutting it and stuff, but the detail's not bad. But again, I've never tried, uh, I use my go-to method, which is my 32nd inch or my 16th inch ball nose. My 32nd for something like this where there's a lot of detail. My 16th inch ball nose when there's not a whole lot of detail. Those are my two lithophane bits. And again, it's to each his own, and everything is different. This looks weird, like a little checker pattern here. When you're zoomed out and everything because of that V cut. But it's actually pretty decent. It's not bad at all. This is not doing it justice. And I calculated it with a 60 degree versus a 30 degree, so it'd be much finer step over and all, um, and everything. So now that we've seen those two lithophanes, just real quick, I want to reset the preview here, and I want to come in here and show the that little pocket cut letter real quick. Let's preview that. Preview visible toolpath, and let's change the color to wood. We'll go with Canadian maple. On here, when we use a pocket toolpath, we just can't get, around our letters, where there's supposed to be sharp points, there's radiuses and things, and certain letters it can't fit into and all. That a pocket toolpath is not the optimal, option. What we want is to when we're doing something like that, what we want to do is we want to do a VCarve toolpath so that we get our nice crisp cuts, and in our letters and our details, those sharp points stand out and everything. And we can going to our material color here, but you want those nice, clean cuts, on your curves and everything. So I don't know. I do not know, David Pinson, if that helped or if that answered your question, because you were saying uneven areas on the Z axis. Like if you're doing a pocket cut, a V carve with a pocket, and your V carve is cutting deeper than your end mill is cutting, that type of thing, if that's what you're referring to, what you do is you run your pocket cut first. Okay? Always run your pocket cut first anyway. But you run your pocket cut first. And this is, I'm referencing the top of the material for carving, right? So Z is the top of my material, Z0, and I'm cutting an 1/8 inch deep. And so in my here, how deep did I do my cut here? Flat depth 0.155, yeah. My 1/8 of an inch, oops. Oh, you son of a bitch. Hold on a second. Let me get it back in there. All right. You do your pocket cut first, and then instead of touching off when you change your V-bit, instead of touching your V-bit off on the top of the material, Z0, right? You bring that V-bit into your pocket, and you bring the tip of that bit down to the pocket, kiss down right on that pocket. You're barely making a scratch and all, and you program into your controller that that depth is negative 0.125, okay? You're telling the software that, hey, at this point in time, this place where my bit is sitting right now is negative 0.125. And then you run that second toolpath, and that'll guarantee that your V bit cuts down to what your pocket cut down to. Okay. So instead of touching off, because you could have a bad touch off, you could touch off with your end mill, get a certain depth, and then touch off with your V bit, get a bad touch off, and it cuts deeper or shallower. And now you got this little funky lip around everything and all. To guarantee that both cuts cut precisely where you need them, do that pocket cut first, change bits, move that V bit over into the pocket area, drop it down, kiss that surface, that little kiss there. Then you run your VCarve, program in negative 0.125, telling yourself that is that depth. And then you run that VCarve toolpath, and that'll ensure depths cut the same. So I don't know if that answers your question as well. All right. So anyway, I wanted to kind of elaborate on that one. So lithophanes, how many have never tried it, and after tonight thinking, whew, I don't know if I'm going to try that, or if they're going to try it, but you just have to understand it's either going to be the Aspire software or Photo VCarve that'll give you that lithophane effect. So it's one of the two. And if you don't want to, if you're in desktop and you want to do lithophanes, then the $145 Photo VCarve software, even though you're like, man, why would I want to pay $145 when half the software is already in VCarve Pro 10? That type of thing. Well, it's one of those balances. If you want to be able to do lithophanes, you got to, it's either that or $1,625 upgrade to Aspire, right? So you got to weigh the pros and the cons and go from there. All right. So I don't know if any of this was helpful. Let's while I'm talking to you or looking at you face to face, I want to see how my Rams are doing. They're doing pretty good. They finished. Let's get back over there real quick and let's remember I had to recalculate because it looked like a fuzzy mess, right? So if we preview our or we've calculated that new finish cut. It's done now. It's ready. But if you recall, there was still that meta material that had to get milled away. So if I take my model here and create that vector boundary around it here, and I select that vector boundary, I'm going to be doing a pocket cut. I'm not going to do the V-carve chamfer on this, even though that probably would look pretty cool. I'll just do a pocket cut on it. And remember what the cut depth is. It's going to be that 0.115. What's our magic number? 1152. And so we would create that pocket cut 0.1152 with whatever size end mill you want to use. And we will raster along the X. We'll calculate that out. And what that will allow us to do is on that pocket cut, it will remove that level of material. Ronnie, but I would love to answer that question, but that's between me and that customer. I don't want people knowing it. It's over $100 if that tells you anything, but I'm not gonna put their business out because they were nice enough to let me use the picture in the video, but I'm not gonna talk about their financial stuff. But yeah, so it was over the $100 mark. So that's about all I can answer on that one. But let's see here. Let's got my pocket cut out there and everything, so that creates that little shallow groove. And now we can preview the finish cut and let that finish cut move along. Harvey says, I have Photo VCarve, but never cut anything out. I never liked the prefer. I never knew how about the lighting. Thanks for class. Good night. Good night, guys. Good night. I know you all are signing off and we're wrapping this thing up. But never tried it. Always wanted to. Hopefully this will get me closer to doing it. Yeah, man, Steven, if you get a chance, do that. I'm glad you guys think the class was interesting. I know there was a lot of weight, hurry up and wait on some of these toolpath calculations and things, but sometimes that's how the ball rolls. And let's see here. I want to try one using one of the V3M models first before buying Photo VCarve software. Yeah, there you go. And yeah, and yeah, you can carve a model very thin. You can reverse it and you can create some lighting behind it. You can do that. You can turn a model into a lithophane. That's essentially what we're doing with the photo. So, for sure. All right. Let's see here. Steven, I didn't mean to pass. It would be interesting to slice a picture in half and do half with a V-bit and half with a ball nose to see which one comes out better and figure out whether it's worth the trade-off in machine time. That is a great idea because we can use a vector as a machining boundary. So we could kind of create that boundary line and have it carve that half with a V-bit, that half with a ball nose. Look at the clarity or the difference between the two. And then also time-wise, right? Is it worth the trade-off? Exactly what you're saying. That's a great idea. Yeah, we may do that. Yeah, I might do that. That would be a good, interesting scientific experiment. Yeah. Okay. You talked me into it. But that I never even thought about that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. Because that would really the proof is in the pudding, right? So what I'll do is I will create a lithophane, a flat. We'll do one on a flat. I will create a lithophane, and I will divide it up in half. Do part of it with the V-bit, part of it with the ball nose, and then we'll look at the difference between the two. See, and we'll put it behind the light and everything. See if there's any real noticeable difference. See if there's any worthwhile advantage versus time, because it comes down to time versus quality. So yeah, man, that's great. That's cool. That's good. That's a good experiment. I've got I've got 5 pieces out there. I've got 2 of them that I got to make that are actually commissioned. I've got one more that's commissioned, so that leaves me 2 scrap pieces. Um, and I'd like to do a really nice. I think I want to do the bear one. So yeah, I got one to sacrifice. So we'll do that. We will do that, and that will be a good experiment. Faux show. All right, so this is almost done carving, and then I better see a picture of some darn rams in here, or else some dang rams. All right, so it's moving along. It's carving. I can see it up here in the corner, and all, and 65% done. Again, it's one of those hurry up and wait situations. But yeah, we are 2 hours and 45 minutes. As soon as I show this picture, we're going to be saying our goodbyes. So let me just say that to you now. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this class. Again, I am not the authority on lithophanes. Okay, I'm just a carver like you guys and girls. But taking insight from different carvers and different resources out there, the information that I was able to, kind of absorb, uh, has helped me in my lithophane creations and things like that. So it's just kind of me passing on what my knowledge. This little test that Stephen said about like splitting it so you can see, because remember, one was 5 hours and 56 minutes, one is 16 hours, right? So is the trade-off, is there a significant difference in the quality when it's backlit? Is there a significant difference in the quality of the cut that would balance out that trade-off of time? That's what the question is, and that's what we're looking at in those results. So that's great. So Thursday, um, well, Mike, Thursday we'll do the in the shop, and I'll have that carving done because we're not having a 5-hour class. But we'll look at the setup and everything and all that stuff. We'll talk about clamping options and all, because when you're working with thin material and you got 30 thousandths of an inch, a lot of people like using vacuums because it really keeps that material flat so you don't puncture through or pop it or crack it or whatever. But double side tape is a no when it comes to that. You want mechanical clamping methods because you do not want to be pilling up double side tape on that 30 thousandths of an inch thin material. It'll just snap and break, and that would be a heartbreaking thing after 6 hours around. So double side tape's a no. We want mechanical clamping, all of those things. So let's I don't see a damn thing here. Let's go into our material color. Do I not? What is the deal, Bill? I'm wondering why it's not showing my model. Is it because I have here? Hold on a second. Close that for a second. It's because there's no visible model. I've been calculating this on a blank board. I used the smooth model right here, right? So that should be the the smooth model. And there's nothing there. It's because if I would have turned the model on, um not that one, killing me, absolute killing me, freaking vegetable. So this whole time it's been living on nothing. Oh my god, and this whole time it's been calculating. Okay, guys, I got to show you the screen real quick. Okay, so I had not the zero plane. The zero plane was on. But this right here, the term smooth model, right? Smooth model. That should be my visible model here, right? However, it wasn't visible when it was calculating. So my preview here is a blank freaking preview. There is no model in there whatsoever, um, which is horrible because when I came back to here and everything, that model was not visible. And yeah, that's where you're doing too much at one time. It was just a blank board, so it calculated on nothing. So yeah, I'm a dumbass. All right. Anyway, it'll look pretty cool. I'll be carving that one as well on the piece of PVC. We'll see how that goes. On the PVC, we'll see how that looks. And that means I've got a lot of carving to do. I've got little time, 16 hours, another live event tomorrow, and then in the shop class. I'll try to get done as much as I can, and we'll see where we go from there. So Thursday night, join me, 7:15 p.m., and we'll see what we can get done. All right, next week, ladies and gentlemen, I do not know what the class is for next week. I have something good. I think we talked about knife handles, modeling knife handles and stuff, but there was something I saw that I was like, oh, I want to do a class on that, and I can't remember what it is because my mind is frazzled right now. But anyways, come see me Thursday. Same time, same channel for the results of these, the actual carved results. We're going to do the test that Steven recommended. I think that's a great idea to split it down the middle and see if we can see any noticeable differences. Yeah. So Thursday, 7:15, same time, same channel. And until next time, I hope you got something out of this. I'll see you guys.